if I had to describe you in one word, I would say it's debonair. Like debonair, stand-up kind of guy. And when I think of that word, I also think of sophisticated. Now I'm giving you like yeah, there you go. Now I'm giving you something on me. But and we haven't even had a sip of wine.
I love that sound.
I'll be fine, just a drink in my wine.
And if you motherfuckers that don't drink wine, fuck you start tonight.
It's time for coffee and Cabernet. The best way to start and end your day.
So, what do you get when you mix a former on-air personality, the voice of Latin America, and a producer that counts you down?
I don't know. You tell me.
I don't know either. We're going to find out. Welcome to Coffee and Cabernet, the best way to start and end your day. This is a podcast, and it's a humbling one at that. But before I explain what I mean, I'm your host. My name is Danny Doe, and to my right is a man that I've had the pleasure to intro time and time again. I got to be honest with you guys. I never get tired of doing so. VO, producing, hosting, coaching. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for us. So glad for being here.
All right. And I gotta point out, I gave you, I don't want to say it was too little of a turnaround.
No, I think it's more than enough. I've never liked, those big intros. This guy has done this and that and that and that. I've been around. I've been, I have my share of broadcasting during these almost 40 years that I've been, doing this craft. And I feel excited because I think it's like day one still. I'm enjoying it. And that's one of the beauties about this. I don't know if you feel the same way as a broadcaster as well, but I would say that still, to me, this job is exciting. Still, to me, this job is something fun. It changes every single day. So I'm blessed to do something like that.
It's crazy that you say that because I think the topic of conversations lately, depending on the facet or quite frankly, like just the industry of media overall, it's always freaking changing. It changes. So for me, it's actually kind of cool to be able to have like conversations with someone that's been here or been in it longer than I have. Because that's the only way that I think like being able to let you know, hey, I got this thing going on. Are you down? Yeah, sign me up. Like, that's what I mean. Like, I gave you like very little turnaround time. You're like, sign me up. I gave you very little detail. It's almost like the equivalent of a trust fall. You know what a trust fall is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, go for it, Danny. Go for it. So I say it's a humbling episode because this is our first go at this.
Mm-hmm.
This is our first go at this. Anything could happen.
All right.
On that note, let's jump into our first wine. So we're looking right now at the table at tailor-made. This is a Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir. What I can tell you is that this Pinot Noir does come from California.
Okay.
So essentially the grapes. It's all about the grapes. And with the Pinot Noir, so what you're tasting and looking out for, like I told you, it's something with dark cherry in terms of the aroma. And we're looking for taste-wise, like some kind of spice, and I think I feel that.
I feel it.
Just like a little bit.
Now that you mentioned the spice,
a little bit of spice there. A little bit of spice there. When you drink it though, it comes down smooth.
Yeah, it does. But the spice that you mentioned is there. I can feel it.
So that's the flavor. The finish or the body of it it's supposed to be silky light, as a matter of fact, the way it was described. And I'm definitely picking that up when you first taste it, and then it kind of just stays there. Like the length of it, the body of it, finishes with that with nice little spice. Essentially, I'm taking it easy on you with the Pinot Noir because everything else down this path only gets a little stronger and bolder as we go.
Okay.
But like I was telling you, it to my surprise, I was like, wow, he's not much of a big wine guy.
Not at all. I have a lot of friends that drink a lot of wine. Wine connoisseurs, by the way. Snobbish.
Dude, that's all about a high scale, like, really snobbish
to say that. I'm sorry, guys. But the thing is that I've never been attracted because I'm more of a hard liquor kind kind of guy, you know. And the thing about me is, and this is the reason why I'm not such a great wine or not a wine connoisseur at all. You know, the thing about this is, if one thing I've learned through the years while I've been drinking, I don't mix.
No.
And that's one of the most important things that I've discovered because, and in this culture that we have nowadays, I do think that a lot of people drink in order to get hammered, which I don't find a purpose on it, you know?
Would you say it's more generational or is more the culture of the environment that we like inhabit?
I'm going to be older in my answer. I'm going to say American culture.
Wow. Okay.
I'm going to say American culture. Why? Because
Take that, American.
The basic, when people go to party, they drink this, then they drink that, then they drink the other stuff. They got so many cocktails out there and people do so many things with it. And chances are that you're going to get hammered in no time because of the strong mix that you are applying to your body. And that thing is in no way possible for you to withstand. So the one thing that I've done my whole life was I did my share. I had my share of cocktails and things of that nature. But basically, I stuck to one drink. My body is accustomed to that drink. So I can drink it. You won't see a change in me at all because I'm already, used to it. I know what it's going to do to me. And I also know what the killer drink is going to be. That one that
There's a kryptonite.
that's a kryptonite that's going to, F you up big time. And when that moment comes, okay, it's time to stop. But when you start mixing rum with vodka and then you jump to gin and Jesus Christ, there's no human body able to withstand that kind of thing. And that's what I don't really see when you're out. People bar hopping, for example. What are they doing? They're basically mixing and trying different things as they go.
It's a sport. It's a sport. It's a sport, and I think that what you're arriving at is that you got to be good at the sport. Otherwise, if you're gonna get trashed, you're gonna be trashed at that sport. And oh gosh, you're taking me back. What's funny is that we came to this country with this idea, correct me if I'm wrong, to have a better opportunity.
Exactly.
And all we got was this lack of sophistication when it comes to this subject, because everything you said was my childhood. That was my childhood. It was like, let's put up to the house party. We're gonna drink this. We're gonna drink that. We're gonna take shots of tequila. You don't remember what you did. And it only gets worse over time if you don't learn how to do it correctly, because then the hangover starts to kick in. Bad decisions start.
You know when the last time I had a hangover?
I'm sure it's
I can't recall.
Yeah.
I just don't know what that is.
We're the same.
Exactly, because if you stick to something, and that's, I'm not saying I'm going to live in my world to just one thing, but if I'm going to drink today rum, rum it is. It's not rum and Scotch and then tequila, whatever. No, rum it is. And as long as your body adapts to that kind of drink, I don't think you're going to have issues, because I think the worst thing that can happen is a blackout.
Yes.
Hey, that thing is, it's got to be nasty. And not remembering what happened the night before.
Yes.
Ooh, yeah. I don't go there. Wine, in this case, to me, would be a much softer drink. So I don't pay that much attention to it because of it's a 5% alcoholic kind of, well, depending on
if you're talking like wine coolers, for example.
How much alcohol is it on this one, for example?
That's a good question. I believe we're looking at 13.5 alcohol body. Okay. Can we get that confirmed?
14.
Okay, I'm
not
on
bad.
So it's definitely something that if you third glass, you're kind of like, okay, like what's happening here? I thought this was just a grape juice.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's all right.
I'm dealing all the time with liquor that has at least 43% of alcohol in it. So we're talking 3 times stronger.
So this is a walk in the park.
This is a walk in the park for me, but still, again, if we go to where you started with this is not about getting hammered with wine. This is about tasting the wine. This is about the enjoyment of the drink.
Absolutely.
Which is exactly what I do with Scotch.
Yeah.
It's enjoyment of the drink.
And that's a freaking entire world in itself. And I'm glad that you're like bringing it up, because it's It's part of the conversation. It's part of this journey, my friend. I want you to let's pivot for a second because I have something like down this road that resonates well with the Scotch and the whiskey drinkers. So we'll get there. But let's pivot for a second because there's a lot of common ground that you and I could cover. So I think I'm gonna like premise the question with this way. I don't have as many years in the game as you do in radio. When I started, though, the understanding was that it's dying.
Okay.
It's a dying medium. So these are always interesting conversations to have with people that have done it, have lived it, currently do it, etc. I agree with that to some extent, but more so I feel like the culture of it. I feel like I missed, like when I arrived, I had already missed out on what radio once was versus what it is. So for you, I feel like you have like this track record where you're able to kind of elaborate on. So how would you describe the current state of radio now versus to what it was?
Well, to answer that, I should go back in time. Because I come from the analog world. That's when I began, doing radio. And
when things were like on tape.
On physical tape.
Wow.
Yeah, to cut the tape physically, get the part of the tape out and join the other two remaining and things of that nature. It took a while, to do some editing that we do nowadays in seconds, It's so easy with the softwares that we have nowadays. But to me, it has been a very challenging thing because as I told you, it began on the analog world using vinyl records, using 8-track tapes.
Some people don't even know what this is. We might have to have like little subtitles or keys.
Yeah.
Explaining a little bit of like, what's the 8-track? What's vinyl?
It's good.
Yeah, you like the PNR? Okay.
Look, 8 tracks were what we use as a, for example, any transitional element that we might use in radio, for example, a sweeper. And for those of you who don't know what a sweeper is, basically when you listen on the radio, you're listening to the number 1 hit music station, whatever. That's a sweeper, right? So each 8-track was one of those sweepers. So if we had like 100, we need to have 100 of those sticks in front of us to be able to play with them and use them as we went along on the live broadcast that we were doing.
So I'm gonna slow it down just because, like, even for me, like it's almost as if you just took me to a museum.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to like understand it. So are you saying that the sweepers were in separate vinyls?
Separate vinyls, yeah, exactly. Each song was an 8-track. So imagine how many of those we should have on a radio station, because all the music library of the station has to be on 1 8-track per song.
Was it all like
those on the walls covered?
Yeah. I'm picturing walls, and radio's like so attention to detail. It's always it always has been.
Yeah, it always will be, by the way.
Yeah, I agree with that. So now, when you're thinking about working with physical things like that, it's not the same as like you're losing a folder on your computer. However, I could see where both could be frustrating.
Picture this, Dave. Picture this. For example, you're running a show, a morning show, a comedy show kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you have sound effects for a laughter, sound effect for a ooh, sound effect for a ah.
Which are not hotkeys, by the way.
Are hotkeys nowadays. Those were 1 8-track for ooh, 1 8-track for ah, 1 8-track for...
Wow.
So the board operators that were working on those shows were octopuses, basically, because they weren't, you couldn't see them, first of all, reading the mind of the host on what he's going to say. Mm-hmm. If that thing is funny,
yeah.
Okay, and now I have funny, okay, punchline,
yeah.
Grab the specific 8-track and put it on the cartridge to play it, and then press play, by the way. So you have to have a lot of...
So the producer, the board op themselves had to like kind of know, like, hey, like I know my talent.
They had script,
but okay,
again, they added,
yeah,
as they might. Of course, it's the creative part of the board operator that does all the rest of the things. If we go to the vinyl records, for example, we had to set the vinyl and then back it up about this size, right? So when I was going to say, and now this is the song, the board I was releasing the turntable, and by the moment that I was saying the song,
He was ready to.
he was right there.
Wow.
So it was all,
Wow.
you know, kind of ear and eyes all the time. It has changed significantly. So I had to evolve from the analog world into the digital world, which came around the 90s, mid 90s. And then on, we have internet. So a new sudden change. Radio has been evolving, and you said radio might be dead. That's the same thing they said maybe 80, 90 years ago when television came around. So, and still radio's here.
Yeah.
I think there's an evolution happening with the media, and radio's no stranger to that. Radio will evolve. It's in that process. It's taking time. I think it's taking a lot of time, probably because there's a lot of people that are reluctant to, apply those new changes into what radio should be nowadays. But again, let's put it this way: podcasting and broadcasting. It's exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. The only thing that's changing is that before it was done on the airwaves, now it's done on the digital world. But if you analyze a podcast and you analyze a radio show, it's exactly the same thing. They did not invent hot water with that. It was there. And everything that we've done in radio, has been already invented. You're not coming up with new ideas. All you're doing is twisting ideas or changing ideas or making them refresh.
The show right here.
Show exactly. So it's basically a format that has been taken to a new dimension when we go to the digital world, and radio will not be a stranger to that. Of course, that if we analyze what's going on with social media and how social media has literally gobbled up traditional television and radio, yes, there has been an impact, and a severe impact in the industry, but still, where do you go to when it's a Super Bowl? What do you want to see when the Super Bowl goes on? You want to see the commercials, you want to see the game. And who's broadcasting that thing? Who gives that air of things? TV. Radio, maybe not that much because there's no image, but now we have visual radio. So we are becoming probably what we call a TV channel. In a certain way with a different say.
That's an interesting way of looking at it.
But again, I think that everything is changing in a way that it's evolving, maybe too slow for what I would like,
Yeah.
But it's happening.
It's definitely happening.
Yeah.
So for me, I agree with you. One thing's for sure. It's not going to go away. It's just not.
It's impossible.
It's not going to go away. So they're left with having to figure out how they're going to adapt. And I think the NBC and the Peacock comparison is basically if you get to it into marketing terms.
Get worried when they start manufacturing cars without stereos. Get worried.
Now we're talking.
Get worried then.
From a marketing perspective, there's this strategy called R&D, research and development. Long story short with that is that the research is supposed to help you develop new products to better serve the customer.
Yeah.
When you look at what Peacock is, that's basically just like an R&D, like where are the eyes and ears heading? Okay, let's develop that. What's our answer to Netflix? Peacock. That's exactly what it is.
The problem, basically, Danny, is that what's reigning at this particular time is people got fed up of waiting for a show when I can have the show whenever I want, which is on demand. That's the only difference happening here. The moment that all these media outlets go on demand, it's going to be the same thing. And radio will still be there, doing exactly that.
And you see them trying. They have the apps. They've adopted their own podcasts like Lane and things of that nature. Social media is very prevalent, which is it's a good segue for me and how I personally feel. And it talks a little bit differently from the medium itself. I feel like it's more the artistry.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, radio broadcasters, on-air talents, they were the cool kids.
Yeah.
We would listen to them on the bus. We would listen to you on the bus. They were who you wanted to grow up to be. They were today's social media influencers. You would hear them. You would be on, you look forward to them, you would record them, so many things, you would see them out in the streets. It was just a wonderful time for that medium. What has happened is as technology has evolved, so many other options out there, they become kind of like, okay, you guys are not as cool as you once were, when you're not really figuring out how you fit in all of this. So what happens in an attempt to stay current or stay up with the times, now the talent has been tasked to be talent, sometimes be producers, social media content creators, wear a hat here, wear a hat there. Maybe you want to make some good money. You might have to also do something like in the back office. Double down. It's become so many things that embodies this, what I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, once upon a time, and I know similar with this with TV news broadcasting, you were Italian, you were a reporter, you were just a reporter.
Exactly.
Now you're not just an on-air talent, you're 5 different things.
And you're so right on what you're saying, because before, look, when I began my career, all I did was sit in front of the mic and talk. I had a board out. I had everything. I didn't have to do, and I did not have to learn how to work a board.
Yeah.
Did not learn to do that until a few years ago. I'll tell you that. So we weren't required because we were specialized in something.
Yeah.
Now, what you said, we got to be producers. We got to be, a one-man band doing a lot of things. Most of the people that used to be the gods in this business, those voices that everybody looked up at, those old age influencers, I call them something, were not able to cope with the advent of these new technologies and the things that they want to do. If one thing the human being has is basically reluctance to change.
Yeah.
And with that, if you're not able to do it, you're going to stay doing exactly the same thing. And that's when you age. And I can tell you, for example, the example of a good colleague, friend of mine, passed away like 5-6 years ago. And he was a guy that was around his 70s. And I was in a place, having some drinks with some guys from the radio. And as I was talking with these guys, and I'm like this because the music was, that was good. It's really cool. Like a lounge kind of thing. And that was great music. I asked the BD of a station that was with me, and he says, "You know what the DJ is?" No. Look over there. And when I look over there, it's that DJ, that guy, that broadcaster, 70-something years old.
Wow.
Spinning records.
Wow.
So I'm saying, how the hell did he do that? Because to me, spinning records is something I cannot do. I have to be honest. What happened with him? 70 years old, and he was still catering to younger audiences between 15 to 35 years old. How do you do that? Just by adapting to the new times, which is what most people are not doing. And that's why sometimes people might think that radio's getting old. What's getting old is probably some talent that will basically be the one that's reluctant to that change.
So you're dealing with that. And I think what I was going to go on to finish the thought was, as you're adapting, or as the mediums try to figure out how to adapt, what's going on is that the talent, these people that were once being requested to just be themselves, just to have that mic in front of it and give the best quality radio show on air presence as possible, have now so much to do that is no longer about the quality of your show. It is now how much can you offer. And it's tough. And the shameless plug, at Miami Media School, we teach you how to do it all. So you can get in there. And give it everything you got. So I love it and I hate it, because I love it because if you're able to succeed in that, you can pretty much do anything. Because if you could run a whole show by yourself, which I know that you have.
Look, I've listened to radio jocks that are so in love with their voices that the voice becomes the only thing, and they're talking whatever crap comes out of their mouths. And I heard this guy once. He was the voice for a telecom company, and so when you call the company, the guy that the press 1 and press 2 and whatever, it was him.
Okay.
So he had a contest on air, and someone called, and someone won the prize. And the prize was, I was listening in my car, and I literally climbed out the window when I heard what he had to say about that. The prize was And the price was that he was going to record his voice on her voicemail.
Oh,
And he was saying, can you imagine the voice of this company recording your voicemail? And I said, what's this guy talking about? It's way too much. He's too conceited on this. And it's those guys that are talking with this big, pompous voice. And you know, this and that. And they're just listening to themselves. That's what they're doing. That's not the way to go. And that's not the way to think that the quality of what you're doing and the quality of the content you're delivering to the audience is the best. No, it's not the voice. It's about what you have up here and what you can bring to the table in terms of the different things that you can make entertaining to people or educate people with as you go along making your comments.
right.
So basically, I don't see why a lot of broadcasters nowadays are still trying to stick to old formulas that are, completely washed out and not embracing the new things that are coming up. IA, for example, using IA on the broadcast world, it's proven to be, interesting. A lot of people hate it. A lot of people love it. But anyway, I feel that we could do so much things in terms of the content, because you can bring IA or whatever you want, but if you don't have the experience, if you don't have the knowledge of what people consume, what people like, you're not doing much as well. So basically, if something is going on with the media industry right nowadays, it's basically, to me, the failure to be able to embrace new technologies, to adapt to new technologies, and to adapt to new forms of doing things, which is, again, the same exact formula that's created 80 years ago, just being revamped and redone or refurbished in a certain way that makes it look like new.
Refurbished. I agree. I actually think that artificial intelligence is the answer to what I feel is the change with their radio from I don't want to call it a negative perspective, but it's what's the reality now. It's once was, how talented are you once the mic is hot, versus now, like, how much can you successfully achieve within the umbrella? That's what gives you that value. It's how many different hats can you wear, and it's taken away from the artistry, I feel. And that's where guys that are in love with themselves, that have that ego, that's kind of where they're fading in certain aspects. They could be doing well in other aspects, nothing like wrong with that, but it comes strictly to what we're talking about.
Look, the one thing that I did understand about the business is I came into the business not, as a lot of people do, to become famous, because fame is something ethereal. It comes, it goes, and it goes quicker than it came. There's so many things that can happen. I came into this business basically because I think it's an enjoyable thing to do. I like what I do. I have a great time doing it. I make money out of it as well. So why not make money throughout the whole career instead of going up and then down and then probably staying down there and feeling miserable because I know who I used to be back in the day. So what? The thing about this is, create content, deliver content. Don't become, conceited. Don't think of fame. Fame is something that is gonna go. But I think you can make a very good living out of this industry without the need of being famous. For example, take me. My voice was always heard during 22 straight years in 23 different countries. 30 million people were listening to that voice every single day of Latin America. Yet, nobody knows who I am.
The face.
The face, they know the voice, but the voice doesn't have a name. Not even a name. It's just a voice that's out there.
I think I'll end it like this. I think we're ready for our next wine.
Mm-hmm. Because I drank this one.
Flying like this puts you in a place, if you look at it from a corporate perspective. If you go too high, you might be on that radar, like maybe even on the chopping block, if you will. If you go too low, nobody's ever gonna notice you or the recognition. But if you just like flat down straight, you're gonna arrive at a destination, hopefully with no turbulence. All right? Exactly. There you go. There you go. All right. So let's talk about our next wine, because I think our next one is one that is trying to move up with the times. And so what we're looking at right here is 19 Crimes, The Uprising. This is a red wine. This is defined as a red wine, which normally means that it has different kinds of wines intertwined. Blends.
Okay.
So we're talking blends here. And what's unique about this one, this is a vintage 2021, is that it's been aged 30 days in a row. So what we could expect from this one, it's a little bit more intensity. So I'm going to come at you hard right now. I'm going to come at you a little hard right now in comparison to what we have going on. It has a smoky finish to it. You're looking for flavors of caramel, mocha, and it's from Australia. So,
yeah, to be honest with you, it smells the same exact way as the first one that I had.
okay.
Let's see what we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this is
something.
This is nice though.
Yeah.
This is actually a lot nicer than I thought it was gonna be.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I like this one better.
Okay.
Describing the flavors, I cannot because
No.
my palate doesn't go that deep.
So this is this comes straight from the minds of some of the more brilliant sommeliers, connoisseurs. They say that the experience of wine, it's at the end of the day, people do get a little egotistical with it, they get snobbish with it, but it's open to interpretation so much that it's almost like it should take you somewhere. Like drinking a certain wine, kind of like listening to certain music, should take you back to a certain point in time in your life. So when you're thinking about drinking wine, it's supposed to be something where however you feel about it ultimately, it's okay. There is not necessarily any right or way. Yes, you start to get like academically like inclined with it if you are a sommelier and you want to be able to define like where it originates from and the year, the vintage, and like the climate. It gets so crazy. But for anybody that just wants to enjoy some wine, like you should feel all right. Like, okay, this is strong. Okay, and that's the finish. It's strong. It's bold. It's intense, etc. But yeah, there's sweet flavors in here, and I'm getting that too.
Uh-huh.
So maybe I didn't come at you as hard as I thought because it's aged in rum barrels, and there's like a whole.
There's less spice.
There's less spice
than the previous one.
There's less spice, and I think it sides more with the whole mocha caramel flavor of it, which is where it's a little bit sweeter.
The mocha thing and the caramel, I'm not sure, but
in any case,
sweeter, yeah.
In any case, what I like that 19 Crimes is doing is that they too are seeing changes within their industry. So how do they keep up with it? Like, how are people consuming now? And they have an app. I had to download the app.
They have a hell of a good advertising campaign.
Hell yeah.
That I can tell you.
And then that gets even more interesting. This is the fact that like one of those faces on there, which Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
That man's career, the way he's been able to adapt, and just and evolve from what was considered like somebody that was too rough around the edges.
Snoop Dogg is not 20 years old.
No, he grew up.
He grew up.
He grew up. Let me show you what I mean, and I think we're gonna be able to later on in the episode, like or edit this in so you guys can see what we got going on here. But so they have this app that brings it all together, and it elaborates.
I think they used to have like I don't know if it's a QR code or something on the bottle that you kind of scanned, and then it took you to a website where you knew about the story of the killer or the criminal that was on the bottle.
And you said we didn't have any wine knowledge, but yes. So with this particular bottle, it's all about the rum rebellion, which is why that whole concept of it being aged in a rum barrel. It's rum rebellion. It originates from Australia. And it was the one time where citizens and soldiers got together to overthrow the government. And this is how they bring it together. And I guess you need to know the story even further. But when you use the app and you point your camera phone up against the bottle,
the most precious of secrets to the insider's jacket. And Lucy, starting as an Irishman. I was bound to join in a combination which was banded together for the good of Ireland, not for assassination and plunder, as has been falsely asserted.
There you go.
He's an Irishman.
So
That's a hell of a good thing.
I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty cool because we're all glued to our phones, depending on your generation. I feel, depending on who you are, but like it's just there. It's almost synonymous. You got to watch. You got to watch. It's an extension of your phone. So I was like, okay, I see what they're trying to do. I like that. I like that. It's smart. It's smart. Check this out. My next question for you, since we're on the subject of radio, which is a big aspect in your career. Memorable story. Something that kind of like stuck out you can remember.
Yeah, stories we always have stories of things that have happened to us, but I think the one thing that stands out for me was one of the biggest mistakes that I made in my career. While I was running a show that was broadcasted to 7 different cities. The show, which by the way earned and has the Guinness Book of World Records as the longest running show in radio history. It's been on the air for 65 years now.
Wow.
Uninterrupted.
Wow.
That's when we have the record, right? I was one of the hosts, of the many hosts that show has had in the years. But I was running the show, and we had some technical issues with the mics, and the mics were kind of off. And basically, when it came to that moment, I used to be picky at that time. And I still am, to be honest. But the thing was that mics were off, sound was off, and I was pissed. So I called in the engineers to see what the hell's going on. And we move into what we call internal audio, which is something that we can listen in the studio, but nobody else outside can listen to what's going on in the studio. So I'm using the mics, but the mics are off the air. So we began doing some tests, and here and there, the guy was, moving some knobs and here. All right, so this thing. And, okay, by the time we're done, everything's set, everything's back to normal. Then I start trashing the station because of that.
No.
And inadvertently, my board operator kind of grazed the on-air button without knowing, and we didn't know we were on air. So I went in a rant against the station with all the foul language that you can imagine. Everything was there. And we found out that this thing was going on when lights on the telephone thing started lighting up. It wasn't the people or the audience calling. It was the other stations calling in to see what the hell's going on there. This guy's gone berserk.
Over the music. Did you ever get to hear it?
No.
You never heard it?
No, I never heard it. I didn't want it. When I realized that I was on air and that thing just happened, and it was like, ran for 2 straight minutes, just foul mouthing my station, whatever, and saying all the horrible things that I say on air, I think my blood pressure dropped. Because it was one of the worst sensations that you can have. But again, it's something that can happen to anyone because blunders are here or there, and you may be as experienced as you might be, but again, something's going to happen. Something's going to go wrong. And in that case, I thought that everything was going perfect, and no, I was live in 7 different cities.
Wow.
Bad mouthing the station that's giving me my job. Jesus Christ.
Holy shit. That's the equivalent of like telling your boss, go fuck yourself.
Exactly. The weird thing about it is nobody said anything. Station brass didn't say anything. Nobody said to me anything. It went by. Not even FCC. No. Nothing. Nothing happened. I don't know. It's a really weird thing, but again, saved my ass, by the way.
So, no.
Not even that. Not even
You're
that.
lucky son.
Yeah.
Lucky son.
Gotta be.
Lucky son. I like that. Wow, I don't think I could top that. I don't think I could top that. How your board operator? How seasoned was he? How did that
Very,
really
very.
really?
But the thing is, just to explain a little
It
bit
was
what
like a
happened there,
freak
because
accident.
you have an on-air sign on the wall, right?
Correct.
It tells you you're on air. But when you're on internal audio, it also goes on. So you don't have a way to know if you're only the board op knows because you can see that indication on the board. You know how that goes. But he was just, we were talking and trashing and, you know, and having that conversation. And he just leaned forward and he touched the button. And nothing changed on the wall because exactly the same thing was going on, you know, on air, but I know I'm not on air. That was a problem, you know. But the guy, all the experience in the world. It happens, man. It happens in the best families.
You
Can I tell you?
I feel like and nothing happened. That's crazy.
I don't know how I got away with that.
I feel like if I was the board op, like that could have been like reasons for dismissal right there. Like
For both.
for both of you guys.
Both of us. For both of us. I don't know. Maybe the top brass wasn't listening. Nobody reported it. Nobody said anything afterwards. I don't know what happened. That was grounds enough for dismissal. And with, you know, shame on you. Get the hell out of here.
So the only reason you knew is because like the listeners, or
Not the listeners, the stations. Even worse, the stations.
like competitors.
No, not competitors. It's a network of stations that were broadcasting simultaneously that show to the 7 stations in 7 different cities.
So there you were syndicated.
Yes, I was syndicated.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Syndicated meaning you guys were playing from one show in one market, and you also were playing in several markets.
In
So
several
you
different
were
markets.
broadcasted in this case in Miami. You were also being heard in St. Louis and in Mexico.
Exactly. That's the way it goes.
And those stations are like, what is
Who the
going
ones calling me in
on?
telling us what the hell is going on?
Wow. How'd you feel? How are you feeling?
No, that takes a call. I don't want to be there, and it never happens to me again. You know, one can have so many stories about things that we have endured and done. Back when I was in working in Venezuela, where I'm from, we were in the middle of a coup d'etat. And the one thing that we had right beside a radio station was a national TV network. And we were kind of wall to wall, so we could see. And the major military movement that was going on was to take over that network, to broadcast and say that the government had been toppled. So the shooting there was fierce. And I had to get to the station in order to broadcast. But I'm kind of in the middle of the fire. And the things that one can see in those situations are so horrible and so I would say gross in a certain way. But always, you know, thinking about the professional side of things and what I have to do and what my job is and what I'm supposed to be doing, I need to get to the station as soon as possible. And I have to work my way into the station, which I finally was able to do. And watching the carnage that was going right beside us and having to report as bystanders was no easy task as well. You know, it's kind of a difficult situation when you're in the middle of political turmoil and you have to be, and that's one of the things, you know, that I think that radio has to be radio and will always be radio all the time. Something like that happens.
Yeah.
Natural catastrophe happens.
Yeah.
Where are you going to go to get information if it's not the radio?
For me, being in the industry during COVID, that's when I kind of saw that. That's when I kind of saw it. Like,
Where are you going to go?
Yeah.
Internet's down. Power's out. Where are you going to go? That's why I'm normally telling to my students every single time, the fact of the matter, you sitting in front of a microphone and that microphone being open in the airways, and not even the airways, that's called digital. You have a responsibility. Whatever you say has consequences, and you can affect so many people by the things you say. And that's one of the things that normally people don't pay attention to because they're just saying stuff, talking crap, whatever, they're trashing someone without even measuring the consequences of that kind of behavior. So that's what we gotta learn. That's what we have to always put into practice when it comes to sitting behind a mic, because a lot of the things that you can say can really go the extra mile in hurting someone or creating something that you're not even aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And it can so backfire onto you
Mm-hmm.
at a certain given time. So that's why sometimes, if you ask me about social media and the advent of a lot of people, now becoming broadcasters without no previous training, it can be done. I'm not going to say it can't. It can be done. But again, so many mistakes are going to be made in the process.
I cringe. I still cringe. All right. So I'm liking this wine too.
Oh yeah.
We're arriving near the end.
You got a winner, so
Yes.
how many have to? Oh, we got two more.
Yeah. No, we're going. We're like at the halfway mark.
All right.
I think we're ready for our next one. I cringe a little bit because these people that lack the training, they get brought in sometimes because of that following that you mentioned, social media.
Yeah.
And you see them like there, and it's an entirely different setup, entirely different training that's demanded, and you need the discipline. That's first and foremost. We just hear some of the ridiculous things. It's why nowadays shows don't have that longevity. We talk about like a show that's ongoing for 65 years, and now shows that if you don't have that kind of training, you don't have to kind of educate, you don't have the proper understanding of what research entails in order to have like the rundown to serve your audience for usually 5 days a week. You're gonna fail, and it that's where it gets radio gets I feel like a bad rap sometimes, because it's almost as if people don't really understand or get like what's happening. I don't even think the people that like at the top understand what's happening.
No.
Like to this day, like the research. Oh, we gotta play Justin Bieber to the ground,
Mm-hmm.
and then people turn off. People get turned off by it.
But the thing about it is that we need to understand that regardless of what you want to do, or regardless of how natural you want to feel in terms of the delivery that you want to convey to your audiences, I would think that what you basically need to do is have some preparation to be able to know exactly what the communication codes that you need to use, otherwise that you're going to use. Because it's not just, saying stuff because you're going to say stuff. There has to be a reason for it. And maybe that's one of the things that pisses me off a lot about what I can see sometimes on social media, when you see the untrained person trying to be funny, the untrained person trying to be politically correct, the untrained person trying to be whatever, and you see that they miss. But even so, the other thing that concerns me a lot is that we are trying to lean more towards stupidity. The stupider the thing, the more likes, the more views, more things, more interactions are going to happen. So that leaves us with, what are people craving for nowadays? What do they look for? They just need stupidity. And that's it. I don't know.
There's definitely a big shift in consumption. On subject of consumption, I think we're ready for our next one.
Yeah.
If I had to describe this one in one word, this would be the equivalent. This would be the debonair
All right.
of the collection that we got going on here. This is called the Saint Chateau Michel. My personal favorite. It has 91-point rating on Wine Enthusiast, which is a solid 8. Vintage 2020, 91. Like I said, it's a Cabernet Sauvignon. Like you, my friend, I also enjoy good whiskey. We'll talk about that in a bit. When I think about the palate, this is the equivalent of that.
Okay.
So I think this one, we're gonna try it. And we're gonna decide, like, does it resonate well with what your traditional go-to drink is? What I can tell you is that the origin, this is where it gets like, oh wow, oh, I can see why you say it's the star. It originates from wine country in Washington, which I didn't even know.
First notice.
You too. Okay. All right, dude. Folks, we're learning here. We're
We talk
learning.
about Napa Valley, we talk about
Yeah.
California, but that's as far as I know.
Yeah. And I'm like, we're learning on this show. So apparently since the 70s, wine country in Washington has been kind of like trying to emerge. And it wasn't until 2001 that it was recognized by, let's call them the wine government. I'll come back in another episode and like really break that down. Where it was like approved as, okay, this is a significant landmark in terms of wine. It's called the Red Mountain. It's in Columbia Valley, Washington. And it's a vicinity that's not even like large. It's not nothing compared to Napa Valley. When you think of like the wine country, you think of places like Napa. You think of it. You think of these vast places. I think I saw 4,000 acres in one of these parts, or one of the wineries that this comes from. So in any case, it's a Cabernet.
All right.
Cigar box and licorice is the aroma.
Cigar box and licorice.
So like immerse yourself, if you will. Like
Who comes up with these
like it's this is what I'm talking about. And I'm like, how do you arrive at that aroma? Who knows? They must know what they're doing.
I'm hoping.
I'm excited. Flavor wise, blackberry. Flavor wise, we're looking at black cherry and dark chocolate.
You have me up black chocolate.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm like, all right, the palate demands for a proper whiskey blend or a proper Scotch. Then this is where I feel like Cabernet like does that for that kind of drink. So what I want to do before we indulge ourselves in this is let's educate a little bit on the swirl. There's two ways to go about this.
Okay.
But essentially what you want to do with the swirl. You know what you're doing?
Educate me because I don't have a
Okay.
clue.
Okay. I didn't want to assume. But with the swirl, what you want to do is you want to grab the stem by the base, not up here. Could get a little sloppy.
Yeah.
You want to grab by the stem. Me personally, I'm on a journey like the rest of us. I'm sitting my elbow somewhere sturdy, and I'm just beginning to like, okay,
Try.
all right. And then, well, there's two ways you can go about it. Is this way, and you kind of get a rhythm for it at some point.
And the point of this is
I'm going to explain that in a second. The other way you could do is I think you got a good swirl going on. I like that. Is that if you don't feel that confident, you could set it on the table.
right.
And then
Makes sense.
thing about wine is that there's aromatics. As the wine bottle opens and air starts to pour into the wine, it kind of brings out the flavors. It brings out the aromas. So it's kind of what you want to do. It's similar to soda. They say the soda you drink out the can is one way, but you drink it, you pour it into a glass. It's like a whole other experience. Not big on soda, but that's what they say. But this allows you to kind of like really take in those aromas, and it kind of opens up the wine, if you will. Second thing is that it allows you to check out what they call the legs of the wine. And if you kind of notice here, hopefully you will be able to get this zoomed in and seen very well, is that how they kind of, the length of them starts to talk about how much alcohol volume is within the wine.
Okay.
So you do that for those two reasons. You kind of do it to open up the wine, the aroma kind of like makes it a better experience overall. It tastes better, essentially. And then you're able to kind of see, all right, there's not a whole lot of alcohol in here. If there's like short legs, but if there's long legs, you're looking at a pretty good wine. So,
Right. Let's give it a taste.
that's crazy.
That's what people do.
It's crazy, but like, I feel like I caught the licorice
It's
more in
kind
the
of
flavor.
It's kind of more crisper than the previous one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
This is my shit. This is my shit, right?
Given the introduction that you gave to this wine, it should be good, you know.
All right.
I'm guessing, but Previous one and this one I think is a winner. This is a really good one.
Yeah. I'm liking the aromas on this.
But interesting the experiment, because for a guy like me that has absolutely not even knowledge, I'm not even talking about knowledge, no interest. Absolutely. Why?
Sangria.
Yeah.
Sangria.
That's the only way I drink wine, But the thing about it is that when you give me these options with this explaining, all the things involved in it, I think it's a good thing because, first of all, every single time that somebody gives me a wine for me to taste, what do you think of that? It tastes the same as the next one or the previous one? I don't know. Because I never have a point of reference that you're giving me now, and it's obvious that there's a significant difference between the three that you gave me so far.
I like that.
So that's an interesting thing to know.
I like that. It's crazy because, again, I think it's based on the individuals, based on the palate, and I love hearing that from like the minds behind all of this, like the top people in this industry, that they are the influencers, if you will.
Yeah.
And they say, hey, look, you could be a snob all day. I'm going to teach you how to do that. I'm going to explain to you how this could be. But at the end of the day, it's how you feel about it. Me, I actually feel like it's necessary. And this is why I kind of like this culture, because it could get so deep, but unless explained, it's otherwise could be like a little subtle differences. The way that the last one finished in comparison to this one, I feel it has like somewhat of a similarity, but the way it starts could be different. Like on the tip of the tongue. It's like, okay, this is something else. This is I speak about it. I'm trying here. Okay, so two-part question for you.
Okay.
Shoot. You just referenced a crazy ass story in Venezuela as a broadcaster, and I know that your voice has gone the distance, but I don't know. Have you worked actually in like various markets as well, like besides Miami, Venezuela?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you take into consideration that the networks that I worked for were broadcasting to all those markets, I would say
Yes.
from the U.S. all the way down to the Patagonia, I've been there. So I've covered a hell of a lot of markets. Advertising wise, also because I've been working extensively with big brands that we can produce a commercial somewhere, maybe in Colombia. But that commercial is going to air for all Latin America. So again, you're going to all those different markets over there. In the U.S., yes, we have to work basically in different markets. LA is one thing, but New York is another one. Chicago is another one. Atlanta is another one. So markets will change, and we are working for all the markets available, as long as you're able to be exposed to those markets to be able to work for them. Okay. And that's the thing. That's where sometimes people get it wrong. At least people that work in my area, that stay kind of local and don't evolve into, okay, let me see what's out there. Let me see what's beyond Florida. Let me see what's beyond Miami.
Yeah.
Right. And I've met a lot of guys with a lot of experience that are simply working the Florida market or maybe the Miami market, and not even taking a look at what's going on out there. There's a lot to do.
And I feel like not a lot of these guys you might be referring to have that talent, that natural born talent.
No, I think it's talent, but I'm talking about seasoned professionals. And if I'm saying seasoned, they have talent.
Yeah.
What they probably are missing or could be missing is maybe the drive to go, the extra mile to see what's going on in Tampa. What's going on in Jacksonville? And let me go to Atlanta.
Slowly but sure.
Yeah. Let me go up and see what happens. But I'm gonna drink this thing.
Enjoy that.
And you got wine, by the way.
And we're here to serve. We're doubling down different industries. We're trying to tap into something else. For those of you that are interested in maybe coming into the media industry. I want to know your favorite thing about working in the markets of South America in comparison to the States. But then I also want to know, because you've called Miami home for so long,
Yeah.
favorite thing about here. So it's kind of like a two-part question.
Yeah, it's there's so many differences, and they're not subtle, by the way. It's big differences. But markets in Latin America are, I would say, kind of the same thing as what we have here. What we have is a melting pot here, and when we work for Latin America, it's the same melting pot, but divided into countries, and everybody's in their own place. Say something. Here we have them, crammed into a different place, but we have so many cultures around. One of the things that to me was one of the difficult hurdles to overcome was how to communicate with all the people that have different ways of speaking Hispanics. I mean, in this case, English speaking language is easier, but again, it's like putting an Australian talking to an American. Let's say an American from Boston. Let those guys clash and see if they're going to understand it. Or a Jamaican talking to a guy from Texas. Oof. It's going to be hard, because words in how Jamaicans, the slang Jamaicans use is not ours. So basically, there's going to be a barrier that we have to break in a certain way, because sometimes we will not understand ourselves. In Spanish, it's kind of the same thing, because the way Guatemalans speak is not the same as Nicaraguans, and it's not the same as Venezuelans, and it's not the same as Argentinians. So it's really hard in terms of slang to make everybody capture the same essence of what you're trying to say. And that's when, at least on the Hispanic side, we have what we call neutral accents, where we speak in a certain way that everybody understands. I think we're taking or deconstructing the language to its bare essence with the simplest words that we can use that everybody understands. And that's a way that we can, kind of go into those markets in a way that everybody, gets the message. The difficult thing about this is that if you don't know how to convey that in the proper way, if you don't have the skills to do, for example, neutral Spanish, for example, it's going to be something very difficult for people to understand you. Now, in these markets, it's even worse. I can tell you one little story about Telemundo and how they started using neutral Spanish in their novellas, in this case. Back in the 70s, Miami became the hub for production in terms of novellas in the U.S. But those novellas were aimed to the West Coast.
So they were filming here.
They were filming here, but those products went all the way to the West Coast. Okay.
So a different type of Hispanic.
Exactly. Completely different kind of Hispanic or type of Hispanic, because what they hired was Puerto Ricans, Argentinians, Cubans, Venezuelans, Dominicans, you name it. They had them all. And everybody spoke the way they speak.
Mm-hmm.
So that thing was a melting pot of languages. Even though it was Spanish, it was a melting pot of languages, or at least of slangs. And when they shipped that thing to the West Coast, where it's basically populated by Mexicans, nobody understood a word. So those products crashed and burned.
I'm only assuming this. I'm assuming that it possibly, I could be wrong, if it stemmed from here and went over there, then perhaps like over there probably came over here, because I saw a lot of Mexican influence, being a little lad myself, watching, I describe myself as a lad, watching my abuela, like watch her novelas and stuff, and you could hear the accents were different.
No, the problem is that people think that it's a neutral accent. It sounds like Mexican. It sounds close, but it's not.
It's funny you say that. We did, I was on the morning show, and we had this conversation, because it's South Florida, you mentioned how it's a melting pot here.
Yeah.
And our show went on air and said, who has the best, or who has the proper Spanish?
I got the answer.
And the freaking research and the phone calls that came in, and you're serving this community that's compiled of Venezuelans, Colombians, Cubans, like everybody kind of feels. Even myself, I'm from Ecuador. The way my family speaks is so different than the way that the Cuban community speaks. Or so I feel like, oh, okay, like we're very proper, we're very like well spoken, like we're like like minded. We haven't. It turns out that they say Mexicans or Mexico had the proper Spanish.
I beg to differ.
Oof, here we go.
Okay,
Hot take.
let me go to the numbers, or maybe to the studies that have been done about this. If one thing, and I'm not trashing anybody here, but I have to say it this way. If something is hard for any Hispanic American that lives here, is to understand a Chilean. They speak too fast. They speak between their lips. They understand themselves, yeah, of course. But to anybody who is not Chilean, you just get 2 words here, 3 words there, and that's about it. Now, look at the irony of this. The University of Chile hires a study to find out who speaks the best Spanish in not only Latin America, but also Spain.
Wow, of course, because they feel like they should be a part of the conversation.
Right?
Of course.
Of course.
Get out of it.
That's amazing. That's
Get
amazing.
out of
Language
town.
comes from there. We
Yeah,
have to
accent. Like, you guys need to stay over there.
And look at what happened. It's interesting because Chile was one of the last ones. Of course. Followed by, not even followed, because the worst, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay. They all speak kind of the same way.
I can see it.
Chile comes next. Then we have
hanging out.
the ones that kind of speak a little better, which were, I would say, Ecuador. I would say, going up in this thing. The ones that speak the best Spanish, not even the Mexicans, because the Mexicans are down there in the middle with us Venezuelans.
Yeah.
Mexico, Cuba.
By the way, so that we're clear, I'm not talking about órale ese. And that's a Miami accent trying to mimic that. Mexican. I'm talking about like the novela, like telereporter, like that Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
By the way.
Okay.
Cool.
Now, who speaks the best Spanish in
According to a study done at
by the University of Chile,
which is like fourth to last.
And it turns out it's Peru. Peru has the best language in Hispanic America.
Wow.
And followed by Costa Rica. Followed by Colombia.
No.
From there on, what we talk is a bunch of crap. Because we are basically trashing the Spanish language as we speak. Cubans, Venezuelans, Jesus Christ, that thing is, don't get me started.
Yeah. So, you Cubans out there that think you have, like, stop. Just the fact that, like, I've heard White House and Gachu, I was like, no, you guys need to stop that. Stop that right now. Stop that right now. All right. We're at the end game now. And if I had to say, this one was hand selected, not only by our producer, but also based on the caliber of the person who is our guest. This one is not like the 19 Crimes. This one has been aged in bourbon barrel for 60 days. A little bit stronger than your typical blend. Perhaps.
You got me interested.
That Behringer Bros, this is their 2021 vintage. They originate from California. The aromas are supposed to be oaky. The flavors are supposed to be dark chocolate once again because it's a Cabernet. It is you're looking at blackberry, and my personal favorite is toasted coconut. Excuse me. Warm vanilla, a full body.
There's a hint of that.
Here we go.
Oh, it's completely different.
And
Fruitier.
as we arrived here, yeah. Now it's more like if you know what blackberry tastes like, okay, it's like that's what you're picking up. That's what you're picking
It's
up.
really interesting, really different from all the wines that I've tasted before. This was Nelson's pick, Lenville's pick.
This pick was based on us having the opportunity to just be in the presence of greatness. You're talking about, you're talking about over 3,000 merchants, 21 countries, 23 countries, and going, etc. No, there's been one too many conversations where we hear, "Oh yeah, I like whiskey. I'm a whiskey guy. I like Scotch. I'm a Scotch guy." So I'm like, okay, we definitely gotta get the freaking bourbon barrel aged wine here, and then this is what you're tasting right now. This is what you're tasting.
I like it. If you ask me for a favorite of all four,
It's tough now.
it's tough because this is completely different.
This one's
But if I have to if I have to make a decision, I would definitely go with number 3.
number 3.
Yeah.
Smart.
That's the one that caught my attention.
It's smart.
It's
They're two of the same. The number 3 and this one, and they're both Cabernets, but just the way that they've been, the process that they've gone through is a little bit different. So this one is supposed to resonate a little bit more with that.
so it's rich.
Yeah,
Something.
yeah. It has a body to it.
Lot of
This was supposed to resonate if you like that hard liquor. However, like you and I enjoy making whiskey. That's also my go-to. That's also my go-to. There is something about these kind of wines. I think Barringer Bros does it well because they kind of come to mind when you think about like the bourbon barrel aged wine. But it's almost like they're trying too hard to be whiskey or trying too hard to be bourbon because they're just aged in the barrel.
Look, as a whiskey drinker,
Yeah.
it's the same thing as wine. Why? Because, for example, I'm a blended Scotch drinker. I'm not a single malt drinker.
So we're talking Johnny Walker.
Johnny Walker, we're talking Buchanan,
Chivas.
we're talking Chivas, talking Old Par. We're talking, those kind of Scotch, which, by the way, are not that common because those are brands created in Scotland to accommodate Latin American preferences.
Intertwining the cultures. It's funny that you ended it like that because I have a 2016 memorable trip or memorable experience in Colombia, and the liquor of choice everywhere we went, Old Bad. And that was the first time I had it. I was like, well, this is like a Latin America, like only whiskey. And you come here, go into the store. Oh snap, there it is.
You'll find
There's
those.
a theme in
Hear me
Colombia.
out. You'll find those brands in Miami. Go to Atlanta, you'll never see them.
Oh yeah.
You'll never see them. Go even up north, you're not going to see them because those are brands designed specifically for Latin American audiences that will cater to that.
What's next for you, Edgar?
Next for me is reinvention of the things that I've done. I've been doing it for a while. I need to do new stuff. I'm trying to go now into things that are media related, more on the concert promotion kind of thing, we have concert design and those kind of avenues are the ones that I'm going to take right now. I'm going to dabble into that and see what happens, what goes on. But again, we have to keep in constant motion because, look, when you've been more than 3 decades doing exactly this, and you feel like, okay, I've done it, I'm probably kind of good, but I need to move on and do other stuff. I think it's time for me to, for example, I'm giving up radio, I'm giving up broadcasting, which I did like probably 4 years ago. And by giving up broadcasting, because that thing is always inside. And the moment that someone calls me and says, I want you in, I'm going to be in. Because that's the way, broadcasters are. But the thing is that if I have to do something different, let me try another avenue and see what happens here. Yeah, this is covered. This I've done. This I feel proud of. Let me move on to new adventures and see what goes on, what happens, and where that takes me.
All right, I'm excited. I'm excited for you. I think the theme of this episode has been like, how do you take something that once was and adapt to what now is? So I'm gonna end on it like that. Again, Edgar Garcia, everybody, thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. You, Mike. Cheers for having me, and cheers, yeah.
Thank you for watching Coffee and Cabernet.
With Danny Doe.
Make sure you subscribe and follow us at Coffee and Cabernet Podcast.